So, what branch and rank were you?
What branch I was in the service?
Mm-hmm.
The Navy.
Okay.
Well, to start out, if you want me to, I can say that when I was in high school, back in 1945,
Okay.
we were at war. Everybody else knew we were at war, but they didn't talk about what should I say? What at that age I was 17 years old, and and nobody, the word around was at that time, if you're your age and you're have the what should I say? The word was around it, with the war being close to end, that you had the opportunity to sign up. You had your choice of being in the Army, the Navy, or the Marines. Well, I signed up to go in the Navy, which I did.
Were you forced to, or did you have a choice?
No, I was not forced. I volunteered. But at that time, there was no indication that I recall of the war being over. But anyway, make a long story short, I signed up, I got my orders, and I went into Philadelphia. At the time, we lived outside of Philadelphia, and went, pardon me, we met, the group that I was in met at 30th Street Station in Philadelphia. You know where it is.
The train station?
Yeah, train station. We got on the train and we headed out. We ended up in New York State, and I'm sure you heard of the Finger Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Finger Lakes. Well, we had what they could call at that time boot camp, and that was like 10 weeks, and you went through, all kinds of physical things,
Like training?
Pardon me?
Like training?
I didn't.
Like training?
Training, yeah. Well, physical training.
Yeah.
But anyway, after I was there for the 10 weeks, we got shipped away. We didn't know where we were going. We went to I can't recall where it was now.
Was it like a ship?
No, not yet. No, we went back on the train, and we went across to Chicago. And from Chicago, we switched trains, went to San Diego. That's where I got on a ship there. But it wasn't. It was a ship that was that shipped troops to different locations in the world.
Oh.
Anyway, I got on a ship, and it looked like, you know what a freighter looks like, right? You've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what basically this was. It was a freighter, and we went to the Hawaii Islands, and that's where I got on a what they call a 2,100 ton, not a submarine, but I can't even think of it, destroyer.
Oh.
I was on the destroyer for as I say, we went across to China, towards China, and by the time we got there, we had gone through a storm and everything, one of those big storms that crop up during your travels, you know.
A typhoon?
Pardon me?
A typhoon or like a
Yeah,
hurricane?
like a typhoon. Like we were, it was warm out, and the guys would take their blankets and go up topside and sack out for the night. Well, I remember we were up there one night, and it, all of a sudden, it came in like gangbusters, you know. Anyway, by the time we got across to China, they had what they call what they call it. I can't think of it. A pilot. It was a pilot anchored. We anchored outside the port of Shanghai, and what was there was the Yangtze River. You heard of that?
Yeah.
Today, I wouldn't know what it looked like, because back in those days, I mean, I'm talking over 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, what the object of the thing was, they had to navigate the river. They had what they call a river pilot, and they have that right in Philadelphia even today. River pilots.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. I got a sore throat or something.
That's fine.
Anyway, we were there for, I guess, a good 6 months, and all they did was, as I say, give a pilot off and take a pilot on, and they did this. I don't know when they ever stopped it, but when our time came to leave, we just got on the ship and we went back to the Hawaiian Islands, and from there, this is where I lose the track. I can't think of. I think by that time the big bomb had gone off, and we were at sea when it happened. Because when we got into where the Hawaiian Islands were, everything was smashed to smithereens. I mean, but see, we missed it. We were lucky.
Oh,
We were at sea at the time. But anyway, then we got from Hawaii, we went down through the Pacific, past California, down to the Panama Canal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know about that. I mean, you're aware of how that worked and all that,
Yeah.
I think. And we went through the canal, which took, at that time, I don't know if it's faster today or not, but it seemed like a couple days to get through. I mean,
How big is
takes
it?
it takes time for the water to go up and go down, you know,
Yeah.
and that's how you're in the same ship.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we went through that, and we went into the shipyard in Charleston, South Carolina. And at that time, they didn't have any more use, I guess, for the ship, for the submarine, or not the destroyer. and we just they did what actually it happened a couple times since I during that period of time where they took the ships and put it in what they call mothballs. Like there's big turrets for like 5-inch guns were on the ship, you know, and they covered it all to keep it from the weather. And they say that we just put the ship in mothballs, and that was it. And then we got orders to go different locations where you get discharged. Well, I got ordered to go up to Bainbridge, Maryland, which you probably passed it on the turnpike.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like I got discharged. And
You got to go back to your family?
did I have to go back?
Do you get to go back to your family?
Oh yeah. Well, at that time, all I had in family was my mother and father. And see, I was 18 years old by then.
Wow.
So then what happened was I had the opportunity to go to school, and I was qualified because I was in such a short time. And it was I only received 2 years of eligibility, which back then was great. It's good today, but it was one thing that I was thankful for, you know? And coming out alive. That was another thing.
Yeah.
During that one time, I remember we were on the ship. We were in Shanghai and giving off pilot duty, and a guy. There was a heavy storm, and I don't know if they had a problem with tying up or what they had. Anyway, they had lifeboats on both sides of the ship. The storm must have come on so great that they couldn't act fast enough to get the guys that were tying the what do you call them? Lifeboats. The water was coming in over the back end of the ship, and it took so long to get it together, you might say, that there was one guy. I mean, something like this, you live on, you never forget it. The one guy that was on one end of the lifeboat he was supposed to be hooking up the davits to. Pardon me. And we can all. There must have been 100, close to 100 guys on the port side. They couldn't do anything about it, and here this guy had a hold of the rock, and it just went like this and pulled him under, and that was the end.
Pulled him under. Pulled him under where?
They couldn't. Yeah, they couldn't get the. He couldn't get his legs got tied up in the ropes that were coming down.
Oh, so then he got pulled under it.
And he went down.
Oh.
So we had a service for him the following day. He spent the whole war on that ship. Like, what would you say? I think he was on at least 4 years, and that was all during the war. So I don't know of anything else I can think of.
I could ask you, like, how long, like, were you in the boot camp for?
How long was I in boot camp?
Yeah.
10 weeks.
10 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long were you overseas?
About a year and a half.
Wow, that's a long time. And, like, when you were talking about the Hawaiian Island, was it the Hawaiian Islands that got bombed?
Mm-hmm.
So like if you like let's say a little bit earlier you came to see it, you came up there, would your ship have gotten bombed?
Could have.
You were close to that?
Yeah. We were lucky. I mean, you know, my throat. I don't know.
That's an interesting story.
Anything else that I can tell you?
Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Can't. No, as far as being eligible to go to college or further your education, we were lucky.
Yeah, I have there's a picture that I saw. I have to ask you a question about that. So I'll go get it. I think I don't know what that. We got this one album and there's a picture of all the people from the training. Like there has to be like a 75 of you guys like in the uniforms. And then there's this other pin thing that we found. I don't know where it is, but we have it. No. We have this. Where's the album?
Let's go over there by the wine station.
Okay, so here's this one. This is July 3rd.
This is Sampson, New York.
And you're right there, I think.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, that's me back there. I haven't seen that for a while. Well, see, I graduated, but yet I didn't because I wasn't there. I had already signed up, and they accepted me, and I just never graduated. I did graduate, but
you weren't at the.
Yes, I wasn't at the ceremony.
Yeah, and then we have. Wait, there's this one that I really found interesting. This thing. Was that for you?
I probably got one, but never received it.
I think this is yours.
Yeah, Franklin Roosevelt. That was our president at the time. Then he died during that time when they let the bomb go.
So can I bring this pin into school?
Yeah, sure.
And then
just leave it. Leave it in the. Are you going to keep this?
No, I'm giving it back to you. We were gonna photocopy some of the pictures.
Oh, I see.
But I was gonna bring in the pin.
Right.
And then I'll bring it back to you afterwards.
You can leave it there as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. We have some other pictures in here. I think these are all Nana's dad and stuff like this. This is the car company.
What's this picture of?
I don't know who that is.
Huh?
Do you know who that is?
Oh, I think that was my wife's father. I'm pretty sure that's who it is.
I can't. We have the pictures of you in the. This is Uncle Charlie.
Yeah.
He was in the Navy too. I like some of these pictures, but then you were right after this.
See, there were about 4 or 5 brothers and son-in-laws, and they were all in the main part of the war, and we were nothing, you might say, because that's where they spent the time, over in Europe.
And then this is like, I may use some of these pictures. I don't know. Where's the one of you? I like the one of you. This is a cool picture. small. What's this? This is a Bible conference.
Yeah, that's not. No Joanne's. It's cute little boy, huh? There's
Look,
him playing football.
There's
Did you
you
show
playing
him?
football.
No, that's Joanne.
This
That's his
set.
ship.
Is that your ship?
The destroyer. This one.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
DD4.
Yeah, we're gonna photocopy that one too.
Okay. Yeah.
So, does it show the number on it? 465?
Does it say it up here somewhere? 465.
Mm-mm. It
Or it
says
might say it in the
it says-
in the words here. Does it say?
it
anything?
says USS
Softly.
Destroyer.
Softly.
Destroyer.
World War II.
Right.
And then there's you playing football.
Okay.
That's it.
And there's you.
Yeah.
Did you see the picture of PopPop playing football?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Cool.
That's pretty.
You don't have as much padding on that you guys wear these days.
Look.
I think that's
Joanne.
Grandma, isn't it?
Hmm.
I mean,
That's her. Right there? That's not her. Let me see.
I found the modeling picture.
Let's see. Oh, there she is. Oh boy, she got an afro. Look how big her hair is there. That's her. I can tell by the face. Look how big her hair is though.
Yeah.
Look, pop up. There's you in your
Yeah.
modeling
Big hair
stages.
picture.
Oh, yeah. That's why I paid a lot of money. They're talking about history. When we were over in Shanghai, okay, we had what they call port duty and starboard duty. Well, every other night you could go ashore, okay? By the time I got over in China, we went into what they call the Palace Hotel, and standing right in front of me was a guy I went to church with. Now, and this is him right here.
So is this from the war too?
He was in the army. He was in the he was a lieutenant in the army, and this was me right here when we were in the choir
Wow.
back in when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really odd. I had a story on that one. He had married before he went in, and I was unaware of it. And years after we moved down here back in 1940, he had never seen his offspring because his wife was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and I had seen the offspring. What did I say? Off what?
Offspring. Baby.
Anyway, that baby that was born when we were overseas, we met again in Summers Point. He went to our church. The baby. Well, by that time he was like in his early 20s.
The kid?
Yeah, the kid was, and he grew up, and it was funny. Oh, his son got a job at FAA. I'm pretty sure, and I'm mixed up on time. I mean, I'm talking 50 years ago, But I remember his last name was Goldsmith, and that night we had gone to a church function, and I was introduced to him then. And that night, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I'm thinking to myself, Goldsmith. And I'm putting two and two together. And here, this is how it happened. And, you know, to go overseas and meet a guy like that, it's hard to believe, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are your odds?
Yeah, because you could be like, because they're like all around the country, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I remember that one.
And
I don't think I was any more than 15, 16 years old at the time.
I know. Look, we have this picture too. From the.
Yeah, and that's my father. Well, that's
Yeah, that's you.
That's my father. I guess he was about 66 years old or something like that. And we had a greenhouse at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's just about it. Huh?
That's a lot.
How about it? Is there enough there? Yeah.
That's more than enough.
Keep you busy.
Look,
What are these? Oh yeah.
handball champs.
Yeah, over at the Jewish Community Center. This fellow was a Jewish boy. Jewish, he was probably 10 years older than me.
Sid Kaufman.
And he was, Sydney. He went to Delaware University. Now, back in those days, if you were, pardon me, I couldn't, back in those days, the guys, he was the captain of the basketball team at the University of Delaware. You know how tall he was? Well, look how tall I am. He wasn't 6 foot, a little less. I think he was about 5'10", and he was the center and the captain of Delaware State team, which doesn't mean anything to you.
What does?
Sidney Kaufman.
I have a friend with the last name Kaufman.
Oh yeah. Well, I know he was never married,
Oh.
so there was no connection. He was an old bachelor that worked for Atlantic City Press or some company in Atlantic City, and I used to play handball with him
Mm-hmm.
in the center.
Do you have any idea when this book was made?
When it was put together, you mean?
Yeah.
You'd have to ask Grandma, because she's the one that did all this. We have books and books of all that.
You already saw some of the books. There's some with Graham in them.
Oh, that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Look, there's a Nana.
oh yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. Look like a kid then, huh? Who's it? Who are these? Those people. Oh, that's Joanne's mother and father right there. She was a redhead in her prime, and she only died 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There she is. She was a redhead. You can see it there.
Yeah. Oh, I love these pictures.
You could probably save this and show it to Grandma sometime. Maybe she could explain it better than I can.
Yeah, here. I'm going to put this picture back in. We're going to photocopy this one and, well, this one we don't need to photocopy.
Oh, okay.
I love this picture, though.
There was another one that I had on the wall upstairs. It was a long picture, long and narrow, like that, and it showed all of us some function in New York City, but this was after the war. Okay.
Cool.
I guess I can't help you with much else. A couple of these guys that I always thought that I'd meet up with again, because one was a school teacher. Oh, he turned out to be a school teacher. To where Grandma Joanne, where she went to high school, and he was her driving instructor. And another fellow, I'd have to really search for him, but he was from South Philadelphia, and he danced in the parade they always had the Mummers Parade in downtown Philadelphia. You've heard of that, haven't you?
I think so.
Well, there were three or four guys in there that I always thought I'd run into, but I'm probably the only one that's still alive.
Wow, you gave me a lot of information.
How about that? I didn't know there were that many in the group. There's a bunch of them there. There must be a...
Mhm. And you guys all went on the same ship?
I can't answer that.
You don't know?
No, I really don't know. I never thought of it. But that's the Sampson, New York. You know what they did back in those days? Sampson, they grew a lot of, I guess they still do it. They grow a lot of grapes, and they have a lot of vineyards up in New York State.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did when we were in training, to like whoever kept, what was I going to say? Whoever kept track of, I can't think of it right. Oh, they had latrines. You know what latrines are, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was our job, to clean out the latrines. And you know where it went, where they piled it up with wheelbarrows and everything?
Where?
In the vineyards.
Wow.
And you tell people today that our country was using manure, or that to fertilize the vineyards. Yeah, understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The vineyards.
Uh-huh.
But I guess after they closed the camp up there, I guess I don't know what they did for fertilizer after that.
Uh-huh. Well, thank you for all this information.
Well, thanks for. I'm sorry I couldn't think of a few things that.
No, you gave me a lot.
It just seems like, when you talk about, it's close to 65 years, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for putting up with me.
Oh,
Any other questions? I'll
no.
think of something, and I'll call me up and I'll see if I can answer.
If I have any other questions, I will.
Good.
Because I think that's all the questions I needed.
Good. When do you have to have it in by?
November 6th.
Oh, you're way ahead of time.
Yeah. And you already answered this, it says what years did he serve? He served in 1945, right?
I graduated in 1945.
Oh yeah, you got drafted. Did you get drafted in 1945?
Get what?
Drafted? Or you signed up in 1945.
Right. But that was before the war was over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's all the questions. Because then you gave me the story, which is we videoed it. Yeah, that's it.
Good. Okay.